Welcome to another episode of DEC Does What. I'm your host, Sean Mahar, pronouns he, him, along with
Erica Ringwald, she, her.
And we have a very special guest that we're going to lead off the show with today. Honored to be joined by Nancy Lussier, our Director of the Division of Management and Budget Services for DEC. Now, Nancy, I have to have you tell us how long you've been here, because if I say it, no one's going to believe us. So how long have you been with DEC for?
I've been here since 1976.
1976. So that is 50...
I started with the state in 1972. So this was not my first agency.
Well, Nancy, I've learned a lot from you, and it's an honor to have you on the show and really talk about the billions of dollars that you have helped the state invest in the environment over your legacy. It is, amazing to think about. It's a little intense to think about, and I honestly don't know really how you've done it for so long, Nancy. You are a legacy here as our director of our Division of Management and Budget Services for DEC, and you are really the person who signs all the checks and makes sure the money flows and makes the progress happen. And it's been great to learn from you, and it's hard to see you go and leave this agency, but we wanted to have you on the show really to tell your story and give you a chance and opportunity to, do the first new thing that DEC is doing on your way out the door, because you've seen a lot of things happen here at DEC over your tenure, I imagine.
Yeah, lots of new things. I was thinking about that this morning, and how when I came here, we had 3 ski centers. We had an air fleet where we shuffled around the governor and everyone, and all those are long gone, but the emphasis was on air, water, solid waste. And I remember someone saying to me, the next big thing is going to be toxics. And I said, I think we're still doing toxics.
Boy, were they right.
Yeah, right. So there's been a lot of things that have become emphasized over different times.
So you've been with DEC since 1976. That would, DEC
the
was...
bicentennial year.
Bicentennial, look at that. Knowledge. 1976, obviously 6 years into the history of DEC, so you really, from the grounds up, were able to help grow this agency. I guess as you look back, what's one of your fondest memories of those early days as the agency was getting started here?
Well, I came here as an internal auditor. So some of my first trips, the thing that I remember is freezing to death outside at a burn barrel at Gore Mountain Ski Center when I had audited all the ski lift tickets, so you'd throw out the ones that weren't any good anymore, and so we had to burn them. So there was interesting things happening. I mean, when I went to the budget unit, I didn't start there. It seemed like we were overspending money all the time on this, that, and the other thing. But the way things were managed was very kind of close to the vest, and so things have really, really changed so much, and they changed with each administration too. In some cases, they're more hands-on than other cases. So it's been interesting.
I would love to just think about this. 1976, right? Sort of the almost dawn of the computer age. And now here we are, a fully modernized agency, and you saw that whole transition. So do you still have an abacus on your desk, and is that how you balance these
Or an
budgets?
adding machine?
I have an adding machine, yeah. We have a little one stashed away, but yeah, that it has, we weren't in the computer age when I came here. We started learning on Lotus or some crazy thing, and then we actually had one commissioner who said, we need to have computers. So we were instrumental. We made sure everybody had a PC in those days. And, since then, it's been just going from one thing to the other.
And many people probably don't realize this, too, is a lot of the IT infrastructure investments have happened under your watch and under your advocacy for the department.
Yeah. It's an ongoing battle, though, as you know. It's just there's so much to get caught up on in the years and years of building legacy systems and trying to keep them updated. And it's a challenge.
Well, we're definitely hoping to keep a legacy system on board, and that's you, but we seem to not be able to convince you not to retire, Nancy.
I'm too old to stay, I think.
But what are you going to do in your retirement, though?
Well, what I tell people is that there's nothing that I haven't done that I've wanted to do that I'm putting off to retirement. I've done what I need to do, and I'm happy with my life as it's been, and so now I got to get taking care of myself a little bit. So
Absolutely. I mean, I think that's I aspire to be the same, Nancy. To be able to go out and feel like, yep, I've done everything I wanted to do. That's pretty admirable.
Thanks.
So when you think of the billions of dollars of taxpayer funds that you've spent on the environment, I mean, how does that sit with you? Like, do you feel like Scrooge McDuck at times? And,
Well, I am a Scrooge McDuck.
Oh, you are?
Yeah, for the agency, because I believe that my job is to ensure that the taxpayers of the state get their money's worth, whether it's the staff that report to me or the dollars that we send out the door. And when you mentioned that we, pay attention to what we spend, it's more than that. We make sure that things that we spend are within legislative intent, within the federal rules and laws, within the state's laws and regulations, and within department policy. So we're constantly paying attention to that for hundreds of funding sources. So it becomes, like I said, very complicated. But it's great because it's never dull.
Could you point out the thing maybe that you're most proud of that DEC has invested in during your tenure?
That DEC has invested in?
Yeah, do you have a favorite?
No. My favorite is the legacy that I feel that we've made in management and budget services. I feel that my personal legacy, and I'm not talking about the department, my personal is the staff that I have hired and promoted, and that we have the best management and budget services that we've ever had. And, talking to some people who have been around for a long time, they recognize our mantra is support, support, support. I tell everyone you can't chop the 10th floor off and stick it someplace because we don't exist for ourselves. We exist to support the agency.
Now, when you say the 10th floor, obviously that's the 10th floor of our building here where your division is located. How has that changed over time? Management and budget services is now a division. Was it always a division? And sort of how did you have to build that?
It was kind of a conglomeration of things when I came into it. And it has changed over time. Now it focuses on personnel and financial aspects of the agency. So we support all the personnel and financial staff who do that type of work. So the real evolution is, to me, that we have turned into a support division. We are not little bosses of the world just because we have money. We don't control purse strings centrally. They are allocated to the division and regional directors who are in charge of what they spend and making sure they do what they got to do. And we're there to support, and mostly to support the executive office in ensuring that things are done correctly. I would never advise executive staff to do something that's not kosher, I would tell you if that was the case. And no one I have ever worked for has said to me, forget it, Nancy, that's not what we want to do. That has never happened. So I always believe that you tell people the truth, you tell them, may not be what they want to hear, but you keep your integrity so that we are very well understood and trusted by the control agencies we deal with, which is civil service and the state controller, the attorney general, federal government, DOB especially. So I think we have proved to all of those agencies that we can be trusted and we can be just that, trusted to tell them the truth.
And I've been, very much appreciative of that trust. And I trust you, Nancy. And any time you've come in our office with something, I knew I'm getting a straight answer. I know I'm getting what's right. And that's really what I've come to appreciate about you and sort of your legacy here in the department.
Thanks.
But I do have to ask a direct question. Okay. And that is, you've obviously seen a number of commissioners now. Who is your favorite DEC commissioner of all time?
I knew you were going to go there.
I guess it was Basil, because and it's not just him, it's his staff. And I keep telling you this, that our division feels very appreciated for what we do. And that's probably me more than anything because of the way that the division had been grown and had not been well trusted or well relied on or thought that it was doing a good job. And that goes both ways. Now that we realize that we are important to the agency And this administration has made that be very evident to me, and I hope I have made that evident to our staff. So that's been quite a revelation because I've had a lot of pits in my stomach over the years. I didn't get this job until I was old enough to retire. So it's been about 20 years, and I think we've turned it around. And that's, well, thanks to our execs.
Well, let's go a little bit onto your journey here in state service. So 1972, you didn't start with the department. Where did you start, and how did you begin your career?
I worked summers. My mother worked in the Department of Mental Hygiene, and I worked there as an intern in the summers. So they wanted someone for a permanent job, so I became a grade 5 clerk.
Oh, wow.
And then someone who was on military leave came back, and I lost my job. So I was like, yike, I'm panicking. So I ended up being a grade 3 clerk at SUNY Albany in their payroll office. And I tell everyone that I'm an unemployed French teacher because that's what I graduated doing. And I did substitute teaching, but when I graduated, the bottom kind of fell out of language teaching. So they were looking for a clerk. I came back. So like I said, I went to SUNY payroll office, and they had a tuition reimbursement program. And I went back to school and took accounting and took plenty of accounting. And then I changed agencies a couple times. I went to the insurance department. And then I came to DEC as an internal auditor. And I came here as a principal account clerk, but I was an internal auditor. And I got hired because of the accounting. So I always tell our folks, take all the exams you can take schooling, you really got to step up and do, maybe it's not in title work, but if you look around and see what else you can do, you're training yourself for the next job. So I went to the insurance department, and then I came to DEC in like 1976. And I've been here ever since.
So as an auditor, did you have to travel around a lot of the state? What's your favorite part of the state that you saw under DEC's jurisdiction here?
Well, I guess at the time there was the ski centers, that was pretty exciting stuff. But it was a good trip. So yeah, I traveled all around the state. I was auditing the Youth Conservation Corps program, the YCC. We did that, audited the ski centers, did, whatever kind of audits. But then I went to a class, and I found out there was a way that you could cross over into the professional titles. Now that's standard, but it wasn't back then. And it turned out I ticked all the boxes and ended up going to take an oral exam on top of my written exam to be a grade 13. And so I passed, and I got into budget, and that's where I've been really for most of my career.
So back on the complexity of DEC, and this, you give me a lot of numbers that really strike me. And I think the one that I learned this year was our federal funding sources. So out of over a dozen federal agencies, we have over 140 different federal funding sources alone that finance this agency.
Yeah, about 100.
How do you keep track of that? And how has the department kept track of that over time and really leverage this funding?
Well, it's mostly homegrown systems that we use to track things. And the controller's records, the state accounting system does allow you to track grant by grant. Our folks in budget, though, do a lot of reporting out to both divisions and regions, and on grants in particular. So they have quarterly grant meetings. They sit with all the divisions and go through, it's 150 grants that we have. So we have to go through, see, are you earning your grant? Is it overspending? Is it underspending? And so it's a lot of using the controller's books and using homegrown systems to track.
I was going to say, we talked about sort of the transition to computers. Mm-hmm. I remember my first office job, we used a fax machine, which are pretty much extinct with the exception of some things. But sort of, what was the biggest change in your day-to-day work since 1976?
I think it's not just mine. I think it's everyone's.
Yeah.
I think the title that has changed the most and the difference that happened is in the support staff. Mm-hmm. We had a young woman come in, and this was like probably 10 years ago. She didn't know what a typewriter was. She did not know what a typewriter was. And so that's what's changed. We used to white out things and write on top of things.
I love my whiteout. I have the little roller thing. I love it.
And a red pen to go with it.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah. So that has really, really changed. So now everybody, when you talk about the classes you took in high school, what was the best one? Typing.
Yep.
So that I know how to use a 10-key, and I know how to use a 10-key calculator too. So people, that's all changed. So that you write your own letters now. You write your own this. So the support staff work has changed.
Yeah.
It's different. They have to certainly make sure things are in the proper place and order and forms, but that has all changed. You don't see anybody taking steno anymore.
Right. Yeah.
Remember those days?
Yes.
No, you're too young to remember those days.
Thank you, Nancy.
Well, Nancy, we really appreciate you being on the show. And before we let you go, and before we let you leave the state too, I do have to say, you mentioned early on the show that we used to have an air fleet here at DEC. So on your way out, if you could sign the authorization so that we could reinstate that, it would make getting around the state so much easier.
Sean really wants a plane
I
or a
do.
helicopter.
You don't want it. You don't want it.
Why not?
Because it's going to rob all the rest of the budget that you have in the agency. Every time you have to do a 40-hour checkup or a 20-hour something or other, it's hundreds of thousands of dollars.
I'm sure you've got some of that squirreled away somewhere in desk drawers or something.
Oh,
Nancy.
no.
Under the sofa cushions.
We don't tell anybody about that.
Well, Nancy, thank you very much. Oh, Erica, we can say something.
Well, Nancy, you said something to me the other day.
Uh-oh.
It was a good thing.
Oh, okay.
But how you felt like now you were ready to leave. And the reason you felt ready to leave is because you had built this incredible team.
Yeah.
And I think that probably over everything else is something that I really admire about you, that you understand how critical it is to support your staff and bring them up with you, and help build that team. I really appreciate that and admire that, and that is your legacy.
Yeah, I really truly believe that. I got nervous at first. We were having difficulties, and I remember Sean and company talked me off the ledge. And then I realized that I don't have to worry about that. I have folks who can do all of that.
Yep.
It's such a relief to know, and I'm so proud of them.
Yep.
I just am so proud of our folks. It's really cool.
It's a credit to you.
Oh, thanks.
It is, and
Thanks.
it's amazing to see what you've accomplished and built, and I know that team will be well in the future thanks to you, Nancy, and all you've done here at DEC.
Thank you very much.
So thanks for being on the show. This was great. We're going to kick it over to the news here in a minute with Erica, but Nancy, thanks for being on.
Oh, you're most welcome.
Thank you. Well, Sean, that was an amazing conversation.
Indeed.
I so appreciate everything that Nancy has really contributed and invested in this agency. She is definition of a stalwart, right? And she's
Definitely.
built up this incredible team. One of the things she said that really resonated with me is about how former Commissioner Sagos really encouraged all the divisions and offices here to feel like they're part of the larger team. They're not always the folks who get a lot of attention. They're not up behind the podium cutting a ribbon or putting a shovel in the ground, but they are doing the really hard work that enables us to advance those critical projects across the state.
And that team dynamic is obviously something we're working to continue hard at because
Absolutely.
we are a team, Team DEC. That's
Yep.
what we do, and we all work together for the benefit of the environment. So, Erica, I know what we like to do on the show is talk news. So what are some of the other news items that we want listeners to know about in the next week?
Well, of particular note right now, we just put out our annual If You Care, Leave It There press release, which really encourages New Yorkers if they see a fawn in their yard or a bird that maybe has fallen out of its nest. A lot of wildlife leave their young to fend for themselves during the day while they're out gathering food. But once a human intervenes, typically that intervention has a negative effect on the baby animals, and sometimes their parents will simply abandon them. So we're continue to encourage folks, if they care about wildlife, to just leave it alone, keep on going. And if there is a serious concern, they can reach out to a local wildlife rehabilitator.
Yeah, it's a hard thing to do because obviously you hear a baby bird or something on the ground calling, and your first instinct is to go over and help it out. But that is the last thing you should do, and just let it be there. Let nature take its course, and nature is very adaptable, and that's what we need to give it space to do.
Yep. Related to that, it's time to give turtles a break.
Ooh.
Turtles are moving to their nests in May and June, and sometimes in order to do that, they have to cross the road. So we're asking New York motorists when they can safely to avoid turtles. And if it's possible and they can safely do so, pull over and help the turtle on its way. Move it to the other side of the road. So most turtles, if you grab them by each side of their shells, you can safely do that. If it's a snapping turtle, you don't want to do that. If you have a little piece of carpet or cardboard in your car, you can sort of drag the turtle over to the other side of the road. So also every spring for the humans in our audience, we are asking people to recreate responsibly. So, that's a variety of things. If you're going outside to go for a hike, check out the Hike Smart tips on DEC's website. It's pretty straightforward stuff. Plan ahead. Have a secondary destination if the place you're going to is crowded, so you have someplace else to go. Typically we tell you don't park in the road, park in the designated parking area. Have your water, have the appropriate footwear. There's a short list of simple things you can do to prepare before you get outside. The other thing we ask people to do now that it's boating season is clean, drain, dry. And that means before and after you get your boat in the water, wash it off so you're not spreading invasive species from waterway to waterway.
We love our mantras here at DEC. Clean, drain, dry. It's an easy one. All boaters should follow it. It should be part of their itinerary now whenever they're going boating around the state, and really encourage people to get out there and enjoy it. I know I've been watching a lot of boats on the river here out the office window, making me jealous, of course. But,
yep, always.
Clean, drain, and dry your boats to stop the spread of invasive species. And actually, on our next episode, it's going to be Invasive Species Awareness Week here at DEC, and we're going to be talking to some of our invasive species experts here at the department. So stick around for that. Glad you're listening, and please continue to email us feedback at contact@dec.ny.gov. Check out our website, dec.ny.gov as well, and stay tuned for more episodes.
And get outside.
DEC Does What is a production of DEC's Division of Communication, Education, and Engagement. Our theme music is an original composition by Mike Menza, wildlife technician with DEC's Division of Fish and Wildlife. Like what you heard on this episode? Please leave a review and share this episode with others. Want to learn more about DEC's wide-ranging efforts to protect New Yorkers and the environment? Visit dec.ny.gov or connect with us on social media. You can find us using @NYSDEC. For more information on DEC Does What, visit dec.ny.gov/podcast.